Near the 9100 mark, so up nearly 0.6%. We bring you another CNBC TV18 exclusive. Nimesh Shah caught up with Vinod Rai, chairman of the bank's board bureau, on the sidelines of the Credit Suisse 20th Annual Asia Investment Conference in Hong Kong, and began by asking him about the resolutions that he had suggested to the RBI and the government in resolving that big NPA mess.
What I had written to the finance minister was not only on resolution.
Okay.
A meeting had been taken by the Honorable Prime Minister in February sometime, where all the elements in government, we got together and discussed the banking setup as a whole, and some of the issues on which we needed to prepare a roadmap for ourselves with certain timelines. That is the issue on which I had written to the Honorable Finance Minister.
So where are we stuck right now?
Well, that was roughly about a month back.
Correct.
And I'm very happy that from whatever news that we are getting from the media, and you also talked about it, the government seems to be taking a lot of very good steps in the direction of trying to resolve those problems.
Okay. The FM has raised a lot of expectations with regards to some easy resolutions or quick resolutions to this whole banking mess. Some new instrument is what you spoke about at the CNBC event as well a few days back. Anything that probably you can share the light on? What sort of new instruments? Because the earlier instruments of SF4s and other things have really not given that sort of returns or resolutions which a lot of the experts were hoping for.
No, see, we did experiment with the intermediate mechanism of the Oversight Committee, and well, we have tried to carry that experiment forward and entrust the Oversight Committee with some more discretionary powers, and that's what I had recommended. What exactly the government is, the steps that they're going to take, I'm not privy to it, but there has been talk in replicating the Oversight Committee experience over many more committees. That will, I think, be a very good move, because there's a huge chunk of bad loans or stressed assets which the banks carry on their balance sheet. Okay. And if these have to be resolved, one Oversight Committee may not be sufficient. It will have to go to a few more committees, and I'm pretty sanguine of the fact that if the government does create those bodies, it will see resolution in quick time.
Are you hopeful, given that historically in the past, many of the, if there are too many opinion makers or decision makers, it actually delays the whole process, which actually has led to a bit of further NPA stress. Too much of committees, will you think that that's a solution to this?
No,
stress?
it will not be too many committees that the banks will have approach. It will be only many more committees, because the flow of these bad loans is large. Okay. So each bank or each joint lenders forum will have to approach only one committee. Okay. And there maybe, if there are 4 committees and there are 100 cases, each committee will be handling 25 cases. Okay. But if one committee has to handle 100 cases, it becomes that much more difficult. Okay. So that's why we are hoping that by this process, the resolution agenda will be taken forward in quick time.
Okay. The one big thing which I want to ask you is your opinion on bad banks. It's been talked about a lot. Personally, what is your belief, and is it a good move if it didn't happen?
See, bad banks have succeeded in lots of countries where we have studied them, maybe in Spain, maybe Indonesia, wherever it is. But once you create a bad bank, you have to empower it. You have to capitalize it properly. You have to give it a huge amount of discretion. So whether it's in the private sector or in the public sector, it will have to be, peopled with persons who have got the professional skills. So that government must ensure before we create all that. The other issue is, who are the people who are going to be actually managing these assets? Do they have the skill sets? And then, if possible, so they are going to be people to whom it will be transferred. The valuation becomes a key factor in each of these, and on that a huge amount of discretion will be required. Probably if the bank is created, it will have to be at an arm's length distance, where professionals manage it and professionals ensure that the valuation is done along the guidelines that bad banks normally function.
Okay. Well, you spoke about bad bank concept being there in many countries. Given the India situation, and you're so hands-on currently on what the entire mess on the banking system is bank a good idea for India, or one should not venture into this?
No, see, it's like this. India already has about 18 asset reconstruction companies. Okay. And I've watched them over the last 14 to 15 years. Some of them have come up only recently. Now, one problem that they face is that the amount of stressed assets that they've been able to resolve in the last 15 years is very limited. So that factor will have to be taken into account before we decide on the creation of the bad bank, and that's the issue on which I would like to concentrate a lot before we take a firm decision that the bad bank must be created. Because once the assets are hived off, maybe it's becomes business as usual to the banks, but once the assets are hived off, it's a huge amount of debt that the banks carry, and that must be resolved to the satisfaction of the economy or the country. It should not be allowed to kind of just deteriorate in terms of asset value over there.